Over 2,000 years ago, Stoic philosophers trained themselves to visualize the worst-case scenarios daily. And until this day, elite Olympic champions like Michael Phelps train to imagine everything going wrong before they compete. And today you can steal this secret and remove your manifestation block: fear. To face your deepest fears is to deactivate them and proceed from that moment forward outrageously. Because manifestation isn't about pretending that a failure is not going to happen. It's really about becoming emotionally unavailable to it. And if you think that you simply don't need to face your fears to manifest, it may mean that there are fears already impacting you in the background and influencing your results unconsciously. I'm an emotional mastery coach, and in this video, I will introduce you to a very counter-instinctual but very potent method to eliminate your fears. I'll show you exactly how essential this practice is for anyone who would like to manifest without deep attachment to the outcomes. Because I know from my own experience that many of us would rather face dozen of different techniques and trying them and perfect them than face our fears. I'm guilty as charged here. And this is very understandable, coming from this egoic self, this human self or nervous system's point of view, especially if you feel like you're doing everything right, but things don't seem to be shifting into the direction that you favor. Because the problem is never your effort. It's this unresolved fear running in the background. And I just want to show you how you are more than capable and you have enough capacity to face these fears and you don't have to avoid them any longer. When I was obsessed with just removing anxiety from my experience and trying not to feel, attached to the outcomes of my manifestations, being scared that, this anxiety is going to completely mess up my future and what I want to see in my experience, which ironically, of course, just seemed to increase this compulsive need for more manifestation techniques to stay in control. There was one thing that I overlooked for a long, long time. It was like I was so addicted to the drama of life that I was so engaged in that I just completely lost this view of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is this: that anxiety is the accurate perception of unpredictability of life as seen from the egoic processes, this human. And the egoic process is this part of you that, wants to feel comfortable and safe and happy and secure and always in control. So when it is faced with this open, unpredictable, and, in many ways, really limited nature of our experience, it freaks out. And what could feel like a possibility, like something we could approach with curiosity and mystery, just turns into self-protection. When you have the plan A, B, C, D all the way to M, you're not really showing openly in your experience or as yourself, but as this kind of risk manager who is just trying to predict every possible negative outcome, who has no chill. And that's fear. It's so deep and so disturbing that it became a subconscious. You are not just one you. You are the collection of different parts, each trying to survive and maintain its own relevance. It's like a circus, one part overthinks, one tries to avoid, the other one tries to control. And it's true because you know that there is something bad for you, but you choose to do it anyway. So in this situation, there were two parts that were polar opposite to each other, but one of them just took over at that time. So you are many of you. And anxiety is really this egoic response to the openness of our experience. It simply reacts because it has no idea what's going to happen next. And it's scary. So when we feel anxiety, this should be our reminder of this fundamental openness of life in general, that anything can happen. the good and the bad. Every possibility exists. So when we look at anxiety like this, with acceptance and understanding, it loses its grasp, it loses its power, and it doesn't control our actions and outcomes anymore. So the technique I want to introduce to you today has to do with fear. So to use it, we first have to find one. So let this be your motivation for doing this exercise. When you stop fearing the worst, you become free to create the best. And I also want to add that the anxiety and fear that comes to the surface that you started to experience after you started learning about conscious manifestation isn't really caused by manifestation. It was always there in the background. And manifestation just reveals it, like as if it has a, spotlight, and then just emphasizes this part of you, this fear of yours. Manifestation exposes our deep subconscious vulnerabilities and fears. And even though I know that I didn't really sign up for this involuntary therapy, the process has already started when I started learning about manifestation, and it cannot really be stopped.
Because it's all part of the plan.
And I know I didn't sign up for this when I started learning about manifestation, but somehow I entered this involuntary therapy session, and I know that all you wanted was to manifest some money and your SP. But once this process starts, it forces you to face what's underneath so that you can free yourself from it. So how do we know what is our fear if it's something that is subconscious, something that was so disturbing that was just pushed out of our awareness? How do we know what it is? It's rather simple. It's basically what you want. The fear is probably the opposite of that. So fear shows up in your body as contraction and tightness and just faster heart rate. And your body and your nervous system talks to you like that all day long. That's why I talk about, raising that body awareness so much. So if you want to move to some new place, imagine never leaving where you are right now. And if that creates a strong reaction in your body, then that's it. That's the fear. So manifestation isn't really about, the techniques or even getting the things. It's more about facing the fears. It's about freeing yourself from the fears that were there in the background, orchestrating your life all along. It removes your fears and it removes mind identification. That really just come from the same place, but that's beside the point of this video. What really manifests are not the techniques, but it's the openness of your heart and your mind and them working together in a coherent way. With trust and this emotional safety that you create for yourself within, and by working on this nervous system capacity to receive. It is when your body learns that it is safe to introduce something new into your life, that is not a threat. The thing is that these fears are always there in the background, whether we acknowledge them or not. But when we acknowledge them, at least we have a chance to understand and let them go. And realizing that we have feelings that we don't really want to feel, that we want to avoid, that maybe we even designed our life around not feeling, is the first step into viewing these difficult feelings as potentially workable, because they really, really are. Your brain cannot differentiate between the vividly imagined failure and the real one. So the idea of these techniques goes back to Seneca and Stoic philosophy, imagining worst-case scenarios so that they lose this emotional power. When we already experienced these negative emotions and situations in our imagination, we can see that these are really just body sensations that don't feel very well, but they cannot harm us, they don't create disease, they don't kill us, they don't really ruin our lives. And this way it becomes less scary because we avoid it, because we are scared of what's going to happen if I give into it? Will I spiral? But after just feeling that, it dissipates. And that's what sets you free. We are not really removing our fears. It doesn't mean you will never be afraid again. We are simply deactivating their impact on our lives. It's like, you're driving the car and the fear is just on the back seat, driving with you, but not affecting you. In manifestation, it's not really about what we look at, but what we see. So test this technique, but try not to approach this as we always approach every manifestation technique that, I will see how much I can manifest with this. Already creating attachment to the outcome. Instead, test it and notice. Does removing this fear change my behavior or the outcomes? So here is the technique. Before going to bed, imagine not getting what you want. Imagine losing painfully and honestly. Fully surrender to the feeling of losing. Don't hold anything back. If, for example, you are manifesting a successful business, imagine that people judge you. Imagine that you will never make enough to have a comfortable life and financial stability. Imagine that you feel ignored and rejected, and that the worst realistic scenarios play out. And stay there until the emotional intensity drops. You are not spiraling, you're not messing up your manifestations, but you're processing and deactivating its power. And then comes the second step. Stand up in an expansive posture, like this power posture where chest is lifted, heart is open, you're standing upright in front of the mirror if possible, so that you can look at yourself and say out loud to yourself until your body believes it. What remains after fear is my true form. You cannot fear what you've already accepted, especially if you are rooting your experience in your true nature of awareness. So this technique is counterinstinctual, because who with the sane mind would voluntarily give in to the deepest fear and this survival level anxiety? Something that we've designed our life around avoiding. So the purpose of this exercise is to remove the emotional charge of the fear. And it combines ancient Stoic practice with the modern nervous system at work. We simply accept the fear for what it is, an emotion rooted in survival, even when there's really no a real danger present in the moment. It's because the ego is a bit of a drama queen, and it's also secretly really addicted to this drama, because nothing is as engaging as the fear of survival. And we want to be engaged. You're going to the cinema not to watch just peaceful landscapes and peaceful lives. You go there to watch the drama. It's what really fascinates us. And we also use this power posture, this Superman posture, to change how we feel. By opening our chests and our hearts, we open up to new possibilities, and we show trust in ourselves and our lives. It can reinforce the shift in state. And then this additional spoken affirmation in front of the mirror helps us reframe this experience. It also signals the closure to your nervous system, makes you feel more safe when you're grounding yourself in your true nature of awareness, your truest form. And it also strengthens your new identity of just being fearless. But you have to stay with an open heart as you say the affirmation. So here is what you can expect next after doing this practice for some time. You can expect that your nervous system is going to come in and say hello. It can be the case every time you're introducing some change into your life, something that will shift the status quo. It's not just for manifestation, right? And it's often interpreted as self-sabotage, but really in its root, it's just protection. So don't be afraid of it, don't fight it, just simply acknowledge it. And then regulate your nervous system with some somatic practices or breath work or whatever you like to do that really calms you down. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of time to get used to the new situation, but most of all, it needs your allowing. But the truth is that our experience is self-liberating. It really takes care of itself. So as a final thought, fear doesn't block manifestation. It's your reaction that does. And if you want to be master manifester and build, your own empire, your own financial stability, whichever form it takes for you, you have to develop this approach of non-bias. To enjoy the good parts of life fully, we also have to enjoy the bad parts of our lives, because that's what creates the full human experience. And that is also what makes us stop being at war with some problematic parts of ourselves. Your fears cannot stop your manifestations. What is for you is already unfolding, whatever you do. If you're using techniques, not using techniques. Your fears cannot stop your manifestations if you approach them with this self-trust and confidence. When we give ourselves permission to feel even the most uncomfortable and disturbing emotions, we are setting ourselves free and lining ourselves up for aligned actions. So approach what you're feeling without bias. Treat everything as part of your experience. The same way as, the sun shines equally on everything, on the good and on the bad. It doesn't ask if you deserve the sunshine or not. It shines on everything equally. And such is also the nature of awareness. No matter what is my experience, I am the awareness in which this experience arises. And I can observe it without bias, without attaching any story to it or interpretation, or blaming others for making me feel a certain way. And it has no impact on my future, on my worth, and on my identity. All from my truest form. So when it's raining, don't fight the rain. Just let it fall on your face. Allow the rain to touch you, knowing that it too shall pass. And every time you feel, you greet this vulnerable part of yourself. You're getting this part of yourself back. The part that was disowned, deemed problematic and unworkable. If you feel like you could use some help in building your body awareness and safely let go of your emotions, I have a mini course that is filled with somatic practices and mind practices. It's called Nervous System Expansion for Manifesting. And it does just that, helps you expand your nervous system's capacity so that you can feel safe to receive your manifestations. Or if you would like some custom help as well, I have coaching and I have a program that is called the Unwavering Manifester Experience, where you learn how to trust yourself and live the life in joy and peace. So the links to all these are in the description of the video. And you can watch this video next if you would like to learn how to drop your past without revision or any other known techniques.